Creepy things happen before the grave.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. This is supposed to be my 200 collaboration special, but I've gone a little bit past that, and I just want to say thank you. Our first narrator for this special show is Dark Paradox. I just love his voice, and I just want to say thank you so much, Dark, for being on my channel. Enjoy!
Death. For many, it is a concept to be feared, to be respected. It is the ender of relationships, of knowledge, of everything that you were and will have ever been. They see it as nothing but a monster, the blades ready at a moment's notice to cut clean through the fragile string you call your life. For others, it is but the next great step in the journey of existence. When it is time for them to shed their physical bond with the world, they do so gladly and without hesitation. They know not what waits beyond, but hope that there is yet more to discover, to experience, to explore. They are happy to go on. Some simply consider it an escape, a way to flee from the pain of living, the hurt that comes from simply being alive. When life becomes too much to bear, they welcome the embrace of death regardless of what may follow after. For them, they do not care about meeting it prematurely, or if there is even more. They only desire for their suffering to cease. The one thing that all can agree upon is that death is a universal truth. Just as every being has a beginning, there must also come an end. Everyone prepares for it in different ways, but the result is always the same. No matter the person, no matter the status, no matter your wealth, riches, family, and friends, everyone finds themselves in the ground one day. But what if that weren't true? Let us consider the fantastic. If we were to delve into the realm of imagination and say perhaps that you were undying, what would the ramifications be? Well, there are two aspects to consider: physical and mental. Let us assume for a moment that even if you weren't to die, your body would still be susceptible to aging, to disease, to lacerations. If you were to continue aging far beyond the limits of our programmed destruction, life would quickly become a living hell. Your body would degrade, becoming weaker and weaker with each passing day. Eventually, if it hadn't happened already, you'd no longer be able to walk, as your muscles and bones would have become far too fragile to support your weight. Soon, you wouldn't be able to move at all lest you tear your body apart, and once your eyes were used up and dry, the world would turn black to them, as well as the rest of your senses in due time. Imagine a fate such as that, paralyzed, blind to death and reality, but alive. A mass of disintegrated flesh and bone, maybe no more than a puddle of soupy tissue, but yes, alive. Not so extravagant a thought, is it? Or maybe, earlier on in your eternal life, you found yourself struck down with a disease of some kind, maybe cancer. While many others have failed to beat it, you wouldn't. However, perhaps you wouldn't quite succeed either. It is possible to assume that without proper and timely treatment, you'd simply be stuck in a stalemate with it for the rest of your life, which in your case is a long while. Imagine the pain that others go through in those last few months of their life, where many people are ever eager for their death to arrive, for an end to their suffering, a torture so great it forces people to beg for the sweet release of life leaving their bodies. But that isn't an available option to you, is it? No, you'll simply be left to your torment, as the tumors continually grow, pressing hard against your bones, your nerves, your muscles, enveloping everything inside of you. Who knows what will happen given enough time? No one before you has lived long enough to see. And finally, what if you were wounded? What if you were tortured? If they cut your limbs apart and left you there because they have guarantee you won't die? What if they removed your skin, inch by inch, until you were nothing but bloody muscle and tendon underneath, where even the lightest of touches would send cascading waves of pain throughout your vessel, but not kill you? That is what you face on the physical aspect if you were to become invulnerable to death. But now we must move on to the mental consequences. Let us ignore all of what has been stated above and imagine that you're a perfectly healthy individual. No sickness and no aging. For 50 years or so, you might feel very confident about your choice. But what happens when your family starts to die? Your parents may be expected, but your siblings? What of your best friends? Having to watch each one's last breath, clasp each hand as their strength leaves them. How many funerals would you have to attend when everyone you've ever known and loved has died? How would you maintain a family? If you were to bear children with your wife or husband, how would that impact your relationship? As they continue to age and grow older as you stayed the same. A single moment of your life frozen in time forever. Eventually, your children would surpass you, and not only would you witness the death of your significant other, but it would be your children whose hands you must hold as they travel into the next realm, and then your grandchildren, and their children, and so forth. It's alright. You'll start over. In a few decades, you'll be able to move on, to leave and start a different bloodline than the one you've now abandoned, and then you'll have to undergo the same process again, losing your love, then your children, over and over with each new glimmer of hope you gain to lead a normal life. They say that's no greater punishment than having to bury one of your own children. Well, you'll have to bury all of them. Maybe you grow wise and distance yourself from humanity before you go insane from the mental stress that simply existing places on your mind. That's only a temporary solution, unfortunately. Everything is when you can't die. When the earth falls into the sun in billions of years, and the sun burns itself out of existence, what then is left? You'd still be there, the one constant in the entirety of the universe, floating through dust and ghosts of your solar system throughout the dark void of space. No oxygen, no heat, and no company. Completely alone for the rest of eternity. When the universe finally dies, will that be the end of you? Will it finally be your time? Or will you be forced to linger on, witnessing reality as it was never meant to be seen? Such is the gift of mortality. Everyone, at some point in their life, asks themselves, what would it be like to live forever? That's not the question they should be asking. The true question you should ask yourself is this: what happens when an immortal wants to die?
My next guest on the show tonight is the horrific narrator. I first met him on Twitter and then subscribed to his channel because I think he's wonderful. This story is also by the very talented hack Shuck. I was going to read this story myself, but I decided to let someone else have a turn.
Children, say good morning to Miss Crawley. She only taught us for one day, but no one in our class will ever forget her. Half a day, technically. She knew her lesson plan by heart. Math straight off the bat. The problem we had to solve involved the Black Death. How to deal with all those decaying corpses with so few men left alive to bury them. It was one of those complex equations. Each man can bury 10 bodies each day, but it took twice as long to bury loved ones due to additional agonizing torment, and for every 7 bodies buried, another healthy man caught the plague, yada yada. That took up most of the morning, though she squeezed in a debate about what Charles Manson taught us about achieving our individual goals before 11 o'clock TV time. It was always my job to wheel the ancient set out on a trolley. Normally, we'd watch a children's show, something vaguely educational and really entertaining. Miss Carly gleefully showed us selected highlights from the movie Cannibal Holocaust, with plenty of freeze frame and analysis. Many fled out into the schoolyard at lunch break, but the brave few who stayed inside were treated to a very special performance piece, a one-woman show reenacting the most brutal witch trials from European history, from accusation to interrogation to baking, blistering preparation. That afternoon, we sat rigid and leery in that claustrophobic old classroom as our substitute teacher stalked the silent aisles. Desperately, we tried not to meet her frightful gaze, She engaged us in a pop quiz on the topic of the many methods of capital punishment, ancient and modern. Pendulum. Sorry, Miss Crawley, I don't know. Ignorant girl. You, the fat boy. Crucifixion. I don't know, Miss Crawley. Good Christian children and never heard of crucifixion. You. Glasses. Crushing. Crushing? Trembling, I lifted my head and met her eyes. Mine white with trepidation. Well, sometimes they use elephants. If you were really bad, they lay you down and slowly chopped you into the dirt. But most often, in other countries, they put more and more stones, big rocks on top of you, until you couldn't take any more weight, like that guy in the Salem witch trials. Gerald's Corey, a smile spread over her cruel, thin lips as he spoke his name, pressed to death by refusing to play men's wicked games. For a few moments, we stared at each other down. My heart pulsed with new and tumultuous feelings. Then she was called out from the classroom by our nervous head teacher, never to return, except, perhaps, in spirit. Most parents complained. Mine didn't. Mine didn't care. I myself was frightened at the time. I look back on it all now, and with a keen sense of fondness, nostalgia, my one happy day at school, as a student. It took me a long time to track it down. Children thinking wanted to Mr. Crawley. I didn't even last half a day.
I did it. I finally got her. Creepy blonde girl on my channel. I am so honored. Thank you so much for collaborating with me and narrating this story. The creepy blonde girl is beautiful both inside and out. So, enjoy.
It's dark, minus a small dot of light flickering in the distance. Where am I? There's a familiar voice somewhere far off, but I can't connect it to any one direction if I could even see. I begin to wander deeper into the darkness. I wonder where that light leads to. This must be the right way. Light always guides the traveler. Despite the circumstances, I feel fearless and powerful. The voice becomes clearer. It's my mother. But what is she saying? I call out to try and get her attention, but my voice gets lost in the void and no sound comes of it. I keep moving forward. She has to be at the other end. The light draws nearer and the voice grows clearer. Another voice becomes apparent. A man? Not my father. Who is she talking to? I press forward, determined to find her. I'm beginning to worry. She sounds upset. I want to find her so I can comfort her. The light is growing bigger. I must be close. My mother is crying now. I start to run. I have to make sure she's okay. Wait, what's happening? Why is the light growing smaller? I run faster. I have to catch it before it closes. My feet are moving as fast as they can, but my mother's sobs are growing muffled. The circle of light is closing much faster now than it was opening up before me. I press forward, now reaching out for my small speck so close to my reach. But it's no use. The light disappears. I press my ear to the wall, hoping to hear some sign of my mother. Her cries have turned to sobs, and there's a man consoling her. telling her she did the right thing. Behind their voices, a machine is flatlining. I begin to cry, but sound is now out of my reach. I bang on the wall, failing my hopes of gaining some reaction. They didn't know. They couldn't have known. But I knew that I almost woke up.
Now, this guest is not a horror narrator, but his channel is really awesome and it has excellent content, and I subscribe because it's just that good. But I think us in the horror community have maybe corrupted this young man a little bit. Please take a listen to The Crimson Studio.
3:47 p.m. August 4th, 1973. My name is Kevin Matthews. I am at the Matthews Lakeside cabin in Black Rock Park, which I received in my dad's will. I'm writing this to document my odd findings of my family's lake house. I've been looking at real estate ads in the paper to get a good idea of how much I can get off this place. I then looked through some old newspapers and read articles about murders and strange unexplainable occurrences at a cabin by Lake Buchanan, called Camp Matt. After hearing of this, I had to get answers. 9:14 p.m. August 5th, 1973. Today I spoke to someone who witnessed some phenomena, a man named Clausen Andale. Mr. Andale said that he was staying at Camp Matt for about 3 days, and on the third night he said he saw a man standing under the tall oak out front, staring into the cabin windows. Another odd thing, Clausen said that the man was wearing the same clothes that he was imitating him. Another, Ruth Oakley, found her husband Dylan stabbed to death under the tall oak at Camp Matt in 1953. She swore her innocence to the police and that she had nothing to do with his death, but the only prints found on the knife were hers, and she claimed she only touched the knife after pulling it out of her husband. She also told police that she locked the doors at night, but they were unlocked from the inside in the morning. After hearing about this tall oak out front both times, I realized this was no coincidence. Through more research I found that Camp Matt was the name of this place up until 1954. Clausen's encounter happened in 1952. Ruth's in 53. I'm staying at a crime scene only 3 years younger than myself. This changes my whole perspective on things. 9 a.m. August 7th. I saw the man Mr. Andale described through the window, but this time he was dressed just like me. Blue jeans with a hole on the right knee, plaid shirt, and a ripped-up baseball cap. He didn't budge at all. Every hour or so I would wake up just to see him standing there in the exact same spot under the tree. I can't call the police. I can't leave. I fear for my life. August 9th. Time unknown. There is no longer any electricity in the lake house. I tried to leave when it was daylight outside, but when I opened the door it was night, and the man was still standing there. I think he's holding an axe. August 11th. It's morning again. I think. My watch says it's 5:13 p.m., but that's most likely false. I've been trying to keep track of the date, but this has all been very confusing. I think it's been 6 days. I've tried over and over to leave during the day, when it's safe, but every time I open the door it's fucking nighttime. My watch says 5:13 p.m., but it could be 9:35 p.m. or 3:18 a.m. or 11:29 p.m. or any other time other than 5:13 p.m. I've placed myself in this inescapable house and the nearest telephone is 34 miles away in Llano. I'm helpless. Time unknown. Date unknown. I can no longer keep track of the date. I looked out the window and saw 8 corpses wrapped in sheets hung upside down on the branches of the tree, and they were soaked in blood. The man with the axe is still in his spot, waiting for me to step out of here. I've run out of options. I'm going outside. Time unknown. Date unknown. I'm outside. I stood in the light of a lamp mounted on the tree. I keep seeing a man inside the house. He keeps staring at me, through the windows. He looks exactly like me. I found an axe at the tree's base. The man in the house is an imposter. He will come out of there, and when he does, It'll all be over.
I just love music, don't you? It really warms the soul. This next guest is also not a horror narrator, but she has a beautiful singing voice, and you should really, really go and check out her channel. Please listen to the beautiful Donna Gladman, and good night, everyone.
There is a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans. Now the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drum. Oh, mother, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform and the other foot on the train. I'm going back to New Orleans to wear a ball and chain. Well, there's a house in